Ready for something kind of mind-blowing?
Always.
Well, today we're looking into Universe One's plans.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah, it's Galaxity and Novosphere, and it sounds like science fiction,
Hmm.
but it's not. They're aiming to completely change, like revolutionize, secure communication AD manufacturing.
Hmm.
And get this, they want to do it all in space.
Wow.
Yeah. So think like constellations of satellites firing lasers,
Okay.
encoded with quantum entanglement, AI running the factories, built with space debris. They're even talking about blockchain transactions happening up there.
Blockchain in orbit. That's a new one.
Right. It's wild. We've got a whole bunch of company documents about these projects, really technical stuff, but that's why we do these deep dives, right?
Absolutely break it down so everyone can understand.
Exactly. So is this really going to happen?
Yeah.
And what will it mean if it does? Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Galaxity first.
All right.
What's the basic idea here?
Well, as I understand it, it's all about creating this network, a secure global communication network. They're using quantum tech, obviously AI, and tons of lasers.
Right. They mention lasers a lot, but why?
Mm.
What's wrong with the ways we communicate in NOW that they need to go this big?
It all comes down to vulnerability.
Ah, okay.
Everything we send money, messages, government stuff, it can be hacked, intercepted.
Right, right.
So Universe One is saying quantum is the answer. Unbreakable communication. They keep talking about this quantum entanglement.
Yeah, they love that phrase.
Well, think of it this way. You have two particles linked.
Mhm.
You change one, the other changes instantly no matter how far apart they are.
Whoa, spooky action at a distance.
Oh.
That's some serious physics stuff.
It is, but it's also how they make this whole thing super secure. Anyone tries to snoop, they mess up the link, everyone knows something's wrong.
So it's like a built-in alarm system.
Exactly. Plus, there's this thing called quantum key distribution, or QKD.
Okay, QKD, that's new.
Basically, the codes for encrypting and decrypting the messages are constantly changing. You can't crack it because the key is different every single time. Impossible to hack.
That's pretty clever. But how do they actually UACE entanglement for communication?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we sending messages through these linked particles?
That's where the lasers come in.
Okay, multi-beam lasers, right?
Exactly. Think of them as super fast, super secure data pipelines. They connect these entangled satellites and allow them to transmit huge amounts of data over vast distances.
So it's like fiber optic cables, but with light beams in space.
Kind of, but way more complex. And they're using AI to control everything, making sure the beams are aligned, that energy use is optimized.
Right, Galaxity AGI. It's like their AI runs the whole show, right?
It's more than just running the show. It's about adapting.
Adaptive.
Yeah, like predicting problems before they happen. Like if a solar flare is going to mess with the signal, the AI adjusts everything beforehand so there's no interruption.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. But this is all happening on satellites, right? How many are we even talking about? What do they look like?
The sources talk about constellations of satellites. They use a modular design, so think less like those big satellite dishes we're used to and more like an interconnected, adaptable network. Always changing, always optimizing.
That's pretty wild. Hold on, though. They also mentioned connecting this network to the moon
Mm-hmm.
and eventually even Mars.
Right.
So it's not JST Global, it's interplanetary communication.
It's a long-term vision, for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, the focus is on Earth. But yeah, they've built the tech to go way beyond that.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. We're going to need to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about Novosphere,
Yeah.
the on-orbit manufacturing side of all this.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
So we're talking Galaxity, quantum communication, lasers in space.
Hmm.
It is a lot to take in.
Yeah, my head's kind of spinning. But before we get too deep into that tech,
Yeah.
we got to ask, can they actually do this?
Right, feasibility. It's one thing to have these big ideas, another to make them real.
Exactly. So what's in these documents about that? Is it all just like theoretical?
Well, they do mention doing these feasibility studies. And prototypes, apparently they've got some things built already.
Okay, so they've done their homework, but actually building this stuff in space, that's got to be really hard.
For sure. And expensive. We're talking billions, maybe trillions of dollars here.
Right. Where's all that money coming from?
Looks like they're trying everything. Private investors, government contracts, maybe even teaming up with other companies.
So a lot of irons in the fire. But even if they get the money, it's still a huge gamble.
Absolutely. High risk, high reward, as they say.
Speaking of, what about the timeline on all this? Novosphere has that 30-month plan, right?
Yeah, that's a key one to watch. If they can actually get Novosphere up and running in that time, it'll show they can deliver on these crazy projects.
But Galaxity, that seems way more complicated, no set date.
No, it's a lot more vague. Talking about a phased rollout. Start small, then gradually get bigger and bigger.
Okay, so it could be years, maybe decades before we see the full Galaxity thing.
Possibly, yeah. Space stuff rarely runs on time.
True enough. But let's say, just for fun, they pull it off. Galaxity working, Novasphere churning out parts in orbit. What does that even mean for us down here? Like, how does that change everyday life?
That's the exciting part. Think about it. If Galaxity really is unbreakable communication,
Okay.
it's a game changer. Secure video calls anywhere on Earth, instantly sending huge files, no more worrying about hackers.
So like the internet, but way better and way safer.
Exactly. And global, truly global, not limited by cables or borders or anything.
That's Galaxity. But what about Novasphere? Space factories?
Yeah.
Does that change anything for people on Earth?
Potentially huge Shigi changes. Think about being able to build things in space that we just can't on Earth.
Like what?
Super delicate stuff, massive structures, maybe even entire spacecraft. No gravity to deal with, no atmosphere getting in the way.
So they build it up there, then bring it down here.
Maybe. Or use it in space for building even bigger things. It's a whole new way of manufacturing.
I can see that. But why not just build it all down here? Launching things to space is expensive, right?
It is, and resource intensive. Building in orbit means fewer launches, which is more sustainable, less pollution.
Good point. And they're using space junk, right? Like recycling debris to build new stuff.
Exactly. It's like turning trash into treasure, space style.
That's wild.
No.
But wouldn't that be hard? Like, how do you even CAT-CH space junk to use it?
Oh, it's definitely not easy. They use robots, lasers to melt things down, build up parts layer by layer.
Okay, that's starting to sound a bit more sci-fi again.
It is cutting edge.
Yeah.
And it's all automated, run by AI. Imagine a factory in space that runs itself.
So both Galaxity and Novasphere are really AI heavy. But how are they connected? Is it just the AI talking to each other?
It's more than that. Remember AGI-GX, Universe 1's super AI?
Yeah, the one running Galaxity.
Right. Well, the documents suggest it's also deeply involved with Novasphere, not just communication.
What do you mean?
It's possible AGI-GX is making decisions about what gets built up there, optimizing production, maybe even designing the stuff too.
So the AI is like the boss of the space factory.
Basically, we're talking control, optimization, maybe even creative decisions made by the AI.
That's both impressive and kind of scary, honestly.
It is, and it adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing.
Okay, I think my brain needs a break to process all this. We've covered a lot, from quantum lasers to space factories to AI overlords.
We have, but there's still one big piece we haven't really touched on yet. Blockchain. They keep mentioning it.
Oh yeah, that. Space is getting really high-tech. What's blockchain doing up there?
Turns out a lot. According to the sources, they're using it for security, like making sure data logs can't be messed with.
Okay, makes sense. Keep things tamper-proof.
Right. But also they're using it to track parts, from creation to when they're put into a satellite.
Interesting. So like a super detailed history of every piece.
Exactly. And get this, they even talk about using blockchain for contracts between different agencies using Novasphere.
Wait, so like if NASA wants something built, they make a deal on the blockchain.
It seems that way. Transparency, accountability, all that good stuff, blockchain is a big part of their vision.
This is all just so ambitious. It's mind-blowing, but also, is it too much?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've looked at the what and the how, but the can they actually do this? That's what we need to figure out next.
Okay, so we've seen what Universe 1 wants to build, this amazing futuristic system.
Right, Galaxity and Novasphere all working together.
But they're really leaning into AI, automation, all that. Makes you wonder, where do people fit into this whole thing?
Yeah, it's a question that keeps coming up reading through these documents.
Like, they talk about human-AI collaboration, but what does that even mean?
It's a little vague, honestly. They mention human operators, making sure things run smoothly, making the big decisions.
Okay.
But it's kind of hard to tell how much control humans really have.
Right. Is it more like we're just overseeing things, making sure the AI doesn't go rogue or something?
Or are we actually working alongside it, like a real partnership?
The documents don't really say. Almost like they haven't figured that part out yet.
It's possible. This is all so new, so ambitious. Maybe the human element is still being worked out.
But it's important, right? We're not just talking about some new gadgets here.
Yeah.
This is tech that could change everything.
Oh, absolutely. How we work, how we communicate, even how we think about our place in the world.
So are we in control of this future, or is it going to control the U.S.? That's a pretty big question.
It is, and I'm not sure these documents give us the answer. They're focused on the what and the how,
Mm-hmm.
but the who and the why, that's a bigger conversation.
Yeah, it's not just about Universe 1 anymore. This is about all of us.
Right. Do we embrace these technologies, work with them to solve problems, create a better future?
Or do we try to hold on to the way things are, even if the world's moving on without us?
That's the choice we have to make, and it's not an easy one.
Definitely not. We've been digging deep into Universe 1's plans, the tech, the possibilities.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing stuff.
But in the end, the future is up to us. How we use this technology, how we shape the world it creates.
That's the real challenge and the real opportunity.
So, to everyone listening, think about it. What kind of future do you want? And what role will you play in making it happen? That's all the time we have for today, but the conversation doesn't end here. Keep thinking, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for the future you want to see.